Podcast, a podcast where I, Richard Harris Jr., talk about why I prefer the sports of the 80s and 90s to today. Today's topic is about one word. Well, it's kind of a phrase, actually. And the phrase is a phrase that we don't hear very much today, but we used to hear a lot in the 80s and 90s and throughout the years. And the phrase is the sports needle. Who moves the sports needle? And I think about today's athletes. And I think about all of them: track and field, golf, tennis, basketball, baseball, football, hockey. Who is the person who moves the sports needle? And the answer is nobody. Nobody. And I'm going to blog about this more tomorrow. But for Deion Sanders to be Sports Illustrated's Man of the Year, that answers your question. That answers my question. Because no one today moves the sports needle. Now you say, what does that mean? The sports needle. Because people would say LeBron James. And I would say, no. LeBron doesn't move the sports needle. Now, you say, what does that mean, Ricky? And I'll tell you. A person who moves the sports needle is a person that makes you stop what you're doing and watch. For me, the only person in recent years that might do that, I can't think of anyone. And I know people are going to say, well, Steph Curry. People are going to say, well, Giannis. People are going to say, well, if you're not a particular fan of a sport, how can you say someone is the sports needle person? Patrick Mahomes. And I'm going to say there's a different level to sports needle person to superstar incredible player. Tiger Woods today came back to play golf in his golf tournament. Tiger Woods is a needle mover because even at age 47, 46, 47, about to be 48, or about to be 47 in a month, no matter who you are, you're still intrigued. No matter what you're doing, or no matter if you're a sports fan, you're intrigued because he moves sports. When he came back from his injury or his time away, and everyone followed him as he won his first tournament, documentary to do on him. They use him in the advertisements for golf, and he hasn't played in who knows how long. That's a needle mover. He's a guy that we all, no matter what, if we know he's playing, we're watching. And his effect, we all know globally, his effect in here in this country, his status, his accomplishments, he moves the needle. And you can say, well, he's playing today, so that should count for today. But it doesn't count for today because he's been moving the needle since 1996. And the fact that he moved it then and he moves it now shows you that today that there is no other. You would say, well, Novak Djokovic in tennis. He's got 20 something Grand Slams, and people say he's the greatest tennis player. I don't think he's the greatest tennis player. I don't think he moves the needle. I think he's just a great player. I think Carlos Alcaraz is a great player. But I'm not rushing to the television to watch him play like I rushed to the television to watch Andre Agassi play or Roger Federer play. And in the 80s and 90s, there were tons of athletes that moved the proverbial needle. Deion Sanders moved the needle. Lawrence Taylor moved the needle. Michael Jordan moved the needle. Michael Jordan was the needle. Magic Johnson moved the needle. Wayne Gretzky moved the needle. Now, some might say Messi. Lionel Messi is a needle mover. You are 100% correct. So, therefore, I've been proven wrong. But Lionel Messi, not American, is playing sport in our country right now. But he moves the needle. So, okay, Messi. So we got Messi versus the rest of 1980s and 90s. Serena's not playing anymore. Serena is a baby of the 90s, played in the 90s. What I mean by baby of the 90s, she started in the 90s. So she's a 90s player. But she moved the needle. And so I misspoke. There's only one person in this era that has moved the needle, and that would be Messi. But I don't follow his sport, so I can't speak upon him. I mean, do I rush to the TV to see him play? No. Do millions of other people do? Yes. Is he worth it now? Box office? Yeah. He always has been. But it's fascinating with Messi. When Messi played for his last team in Europe, he played with Neymar. He played with like an all-star team, and they still didn't win. Mbappe, they didn't win. And so maybe to me, that's why I think he moved the needle because he didn't win. Cristiano Ronaldo decided, he said, listen, I'm taking my talents to Dubai and be a stud over there and get paid hundreds of millions of dollars to play over there. He didn't move the needle. So I guess I'm doing a bad job of explaining what a needle mover is or does. Because there are people in this sports world today that is really, really good and that people really do go out of their way to see play, but they don't make me feel like Michael Jordan did, Tiger Woods did, Joe Montana did, Jerry Rice did, Lawrence Taylor did. And I'm a fan of these people. I'm a fan of Steph Curry. But if they were to gauge today, the and it did recently, I saw a poll recently where they said that Michael Jordan is still the most popular athlete in the world, and that Messi was 14th and Cristiano Ronaldo was 15th. That says a lot. Michael ain't played in years. But it's funny. Basketball feels that putting LeBron James on TV all the time brings eyeballs to the TV set. To me, it doesn't. Charles Barkley last year kept saying repeatedly, "Why in the world are the Lakers on TV again?" That's not a needle mover. A needle mover is somebody that you say, "All right, the game starts at 7. I got to be at the TV at 7." And it's not a bitter thing with Charles, it's just a fact. The Lakers, until the end of last year, stunk. And they were on TV because of him. I look at Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes and the Chiefs should be featured all the time. They're the defending champions. But this year, they have a good record, but they're not as explosive and as impressive as they normally are. So I'm not saying, okay, well, I'm going to be at the TV at 10 a.m. or I'm going to be at the TV at 1 p.m. to see the Chiefs play. But I said the Giants played. I wanted to see Lawrence Taylor play, absolutely. Rush home from church to watch the Giants play. And if the late game was the 49ers against whoever, I'd get home to go see Joe Montana play, Jerry Rice play. When Dion went to the Niners from Atlanta, and even when he went to the Cowboys, and then when he went to Baltimore and Washington, we all went to watch. But aside from Messi, I don't feel that anyone else is there. And the purpose of the reason for this blog today is I woke up this morning and my phone pinged and said Hero Golf Classic. And I was like, oh, that's Tiger's event. And I rushed to watch, and I've been watching ever since. I don't get that feel from anybody today, is what I'm basically saying. That I feel like that I have to watch because it's of him or her. And I'm thinking in terms of women's sports too. What women's athlete moved the needle other than Serena? we watched the Olympics because we all fell in love with FloJo. Did we not? I mean, the '84 women's basketball team was pretty darn good to win the Olympic gold. But there was no WNBA. There was no, professional league for them to go and become great players. And so they all took their talents elsewhere. And maybe that's why there isn't a woman who moves the needle type person, because after the WNBA season is over, we don't hear nothing about them. We hear nothing about the players unless they get married or unless they get arrested for having weed. And then the individual sports, you look at golf. Well, they taken women's golf off TV. You only get to see women's golf unless you watch the Golf Channel or if you watch NBC once in a while. CBS had one this year, first time, and I can't remember the last time they ever had one before this year. They've taken the individual sports off national TV, to be honest. It's all on specific networks. It's on Tennis Channel. It's on Golf Channel. It's on Lifetime. They put the women's soccer on, and they put that on opposite things that other people want to watch. And so I'm trying to think. A'ja Wilson is a two-time champion in WNBA. If A'ja Wilson sat down next to me on an airplane, I would know who she is because I've seen her play several times. But most other people wouldn't. They'd be like, damn, that lady's tall. Does she play in the WNBA? Instead of saying, oh my God, that's A'ja Wilson, who should have been league MVP. I love Breanna Stewart, but A'ja Wilson was Defensive Player of the Year, and that team had the best record in the league, and they ended up winning the championship. I know awards are given out before the season's over. I mean, before the playoffs, but you don't move the needle. You think about the track and field stars. You only think about them during the Olympic season, or if NBC will show the races. I mean, I love Miss McLaughlin, Cindy McLaughlin, the girl who broke the record in the 400. You know nothing about her until Olympic time. Same thing with Moo. They showed her the last week at the football game because she was at the football game. Simone Biles has kind of died down a little bit because she didn't compete in the Olympics. She might be the only one that might move the needle. But there's kind of I won't say negative, but it's kind of like the awe effect is kind of dwindled away. And then you think about other sports, figure skating. I couldn't tell you the name of anyone who's a figure skater like we used to. Debbie Thomas. I mean, they've all disappeared. And that's my point. There's like an invisible nature of sports today. Even though Patrick Mahomes and LeBron, There's actually not that many commercials with LeBron. Patrick Mahomes is only in one commercial that I remember. Baseball players, forget about baseball players. What baseball player is in any commercial other than Julio Rodriguez? They don't talk about, I mean, people will say, well, Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani is big in his country. He's not as big as in his country as he is here, although he's about to become a $500 million man. But he plays out here on the West Coast, so nobody sees him. If he played for the Mets or the Yankees or the Red Sox or some team on the East Coast where I mean, I'm not saying there's not true baseball fans out here, but the media is different out here. Maybe he can become that guy, but he's hurt all the time. He plays half a season. Mike Trout, he's hurt half the season. Mookie Betts is a perfect candidate. Corey Seager's a perfect candidate. But again, once baseball season's over, they disappear. We don't hear nothing about them unless they do something stupid. And that's my point. My point is the players who I say move the needle, we are concerned about, hear about year round. Michael Jordan hasn't picked up a basketball in over 20 years, and he's still relevant in the news today. Still relevant. Magic Johnson, still relevant. Of course, Tiger, still playing, still relevant. You might say Tom Brady. Tom Brady, when the season ended, nobody care about Tom Brady. Tom Brady was never, at least to me, he was never must see. The only time Patriots were must see was when they played against the Chiefs late in Tom Brady's career and the Colts in the middle of his career, and then in the Super Bowl. I wasn't, in fact, I'd say most of America wasn't breaking their backs to, oh, it's 1 o'clock, we got to go, Patriots are on. Only Patriot fans were doing that, and their opponents. But 1 o'clock Jets Patriots game was interesting. It wasn't, you know, it's gonna rock the core of the NFL. And in the 2 years that it was good matchups, what about the other 15 years? It was an event. It wasn't an event in the 80s and 90s. Bulls against the Pacers, you'd watch. The Bulls against the Knicks, you'd watch. The Bulls against the Lakers, you'd watch. Bulls against the Pistons, you'd watch. Bulls against the Blazers, you'd watch. The Bulls against the Hawks, you would watch. Why? Because of Michael. Because no matter who they played, you'd watch. Do you feel that way when the Lakers play against the Grizzlies? You feel that way when the Lakers play against the Houston Rockets? No. That's why LeBron is not a mover. You're not saying, I gotta get out of this traffic. Lakers are playing against the Orlando Magic. But you did when Mike played. These guys know. They know who the guy is. They all still look up to the guy. Who is this guy I'm watching on TV? Tiger Woods. for Tom Brady to criticize football today. That hurt people's feelings. People got really hurt by it because he just played in it last year. And for him to be like, yeah, but I felt today the product is, they don't do this, they ain't doing that. That hurt people's feelings because he just played. That's why Alex Smith was like, I got to say something. How could Tommy say that? And so that's why I prefer the sports of the 80s and 90s. I'm a fan of sports. I watch everything since I was before 10 years old. 1970s, 80s, 90s, the aughts, the teens, now the 20s. I watch it all. Always have, always will. I guess I am looking for somebody in this sports era, and that person could be here. Who knows? Coco Gauff could develop into that in tennis. Victor could become that guy in basketball. Mahomes still has years ahead of him. But maybe this kid down in Houston, CJ Stroud, can be that guy too. I wish I knew. Maybe Carlos Alcaraz will become that guy. Or it's Yannick Sinner or Ben Shelton, or one of the young guns. In tennis, men's tennis. John Morant had that potential, but now he's got stuff hanging over his head, and you're just like, I can't, I mean, he was must-see TV for a few minutes. And now he's an accident waiting to happen. And that's not a person who moves the needle. That's the person you feel bad for. And that's why I prefer the sports of the 80s and 90s to today. Because I think the athletes in that era was just simply better. And put this love of sports in me.